Good afternoon and welcome back, everyone. I'm Eric Fernandez, the head of Safety Intelligence Department at EASA.
Very happy to join you, Eric, for the second panel of the day. Before we start, a message for our audience. Please let me encourage each of you to interact with us during the session using the Slido tool. The Slido is already open and will remain accessible during the complete panel. You can ask your questions either directly via the chat or using the slido.com link and the code at EASA-SAFE1. Your questions will be captured and answered during the last part of the panel. Back to you, Eric.
Thank you, Leo. So this is a panel about Data4Safety. So Data4Safety is also known as the European Big Data Program for Aviation Safety. And I know that many of you have heard about it because we have already made several public communications about this program, in particular at the last EASA Annual Safety Conference back in November. So we wanted to use this Safe 360 conference to give you an update on where we stand, because we are approaching a key milestone for this program. Indeed, we are currently in a proof of concept phase, so a kind of a demonstrator, and this phase is going to end at the end of this year. And next year, in 2022, the ambition is to go operational. So before we do that, we go operational, we wanted to take stock of the situation with you and share with you where we stand in terms of the implementation of the proof of concept, what are the perspectives for the next phase of the program, and discuss with you and our members of the program what are the concrete benefits that we can expect from such a program. But before we launch the panel, and as a scene setter, we would like to show you a short video that recaps what Data4Safety is about.
Thank you, Eric. Indeed, great scene setter. I think it helped grasp what, in essence, is Data4Safety, in which context we launched the Data4Safety program, and what we are trying to achieve with our program members. Talking about members, let's now introduce the panelists. And let me start with Mr. Luc Tidgat. Luc is the EASA Director of the Strategy and Safety Management Directorate since January 2015. Prior to EASA, Luc had a career in the Belgium Air Force and as well at the European Commission and Eurocontrol. He was in particular very much involved in the Single European Sky and the Galileo program. Importantly, Luc has a very central role in the Data4Safety program, being the EASA co-chair of the Data4Safety steering board. Good afternoon, Luc.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So talking about co-chairs, I would like now to continue with the current industry co-chair, that is Captain Jim Pegram from EasyJet. So Jim is the Director of Safety, Security and Compliance at EasyJet. Jim has over 40 years of experience as an operator, trainer and manager in flight and cabin crew operations, crew training, and operations control. In his present role, he has brought his considerable experience to the development of EasyJet integrated safety Security and Compliance Management System Program, and is working closely with the national competent authorities, EASA, and the various governments, departments, and agencies. And he is the co-chair, as I said, from the steering board.
Eric, I would like to introduce another very experienced and senior pilot and airline representative, Captain Aidan Murray. Aidan is chief pilot since April 2020 at Ryanair. Ryanair, who was one of the DFRS pioneers, and it's worth underlining it, the first airline to finalize the sharing of its flight data with the program. Aidan has over 30 years experience in the aviation industry and has spent the last 26 years at Ryanair in various operational and management positions. Of interest, Aidan has been particularly active and fervent sponsor of many projects related to the use of data within Ryanair to enhance safety, like, for example, the paperless flight deck or the provision to Ryanair pilots of on-demand video replays of their flights.
Hello, Aidan.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Eric.
And I forgot to welcome Jim. So, Jim, hello. You are muted, Jim. Still muted. So it shows that after 18 months of pandemic and virtual conferences, we are still struggling with that. So we'll let you figure out your mute issue. And I would like now to move to Patrick Cipriani. Patrick is a representative from a National Aviation Authority. Patrick is the Director for Safety at the French DGAC. And in this function, he manages the French National Authority for Aviation Safety. Prior to this position, Patrick worked some years managing the air traffic control system development projects, and he worked for an engineering company, Aegis Avia, where he developed consultancy activities on European markets. He became the CEO several years later, then chairman in 2001.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. So Patrick is also the French representative at the EASA Management Board.
Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Please let me now introduce a representative of the pilot communities and pilot unions who has been involved, and this is the least to say, instrumental since the very beginning of the program's life, already contributing significantly to the feasibility study of Data4Safety back in 2015, Captain Bert Bonk. Bert has been an active airline pilot since 1997 on various aircraft types, currently a captain and route instructor on Boeing 777 and Boeing 787 for KLM. Since 2002, he has been involved in accident and incident investigations as a flight data expert for the accident investigation group at Dutch ALPA, and since 2012 for the European Cockpit Association in their flight data working group that he started to chair in 2016. As such, he is now extremely active and actively involved in Data4Safety as co-chair of the program technical board. Good afternoon, Bert.
Good afternoon, Leo. Good afternoon, everyone.
Last but not least, I would like to introduce our last panelist, who is from the European Commission. So that's Mr. Joachim Looking. Joachim has been the head of unit for aviation safety in the Directorate General for Mobility and Transport of the European Commission since 2016. So in this function, Joachim is responsible for implementing and developing European aviation safety policy, including the oversight of EASA, as well as the Commission's international activities in this area. Hello, Joachim. Good afternoon.
Hello, Eric.
Well, Eric, I think that we can consider ourselves pretty lucky. We have a great panel, impressive experience and knowledge, of course, but as well, very complementary perspectives across the aviation sector. So I believe this should enable a real 360 degrees discussion about the Data4Safety program. Also, without any further additions, I propose that we get started. To start the panel, I'd like to turn to you, Luc, for the first question. That might sound very simple, but actually that is quite fundamental. So as EASA Strategy and Safety Management Director and co-chair of the steering board of the program, why did the agency initiate impulse the Data4Safety program? How does this Data4Safety fit blend in the agency strategy?
Thank you, Leo. Yes, we should say also when it was developed. It was developed another life when before the pandemic, and the context was completely different. We had a big growth in terms of traffic. There was expansion of the air transport industry. We have seen many new business models, new technologies, new safety risks. So we were really looking for big data technology to deal with this growth and to capture what we could get from the system. What has been decided EASA is to put that part of our digital strategy. I think it's obvious that this should part of really the basement, the foundation of the construction of the safety intelligence. And this would lead it was decided to help to develop the capability of the agency when the volume of data was expected to explode as well. And when we were asked more and more to start predicting, identifying the new risks and to develop with partners the solution. Because the key word is the partners. It's not EASA on its own who has decided to develop it. It's to do it with the partners, which has been, by the way, part of this platform today. There was a major objective. It's to link together the safety management and the safety intelligence. Managing data is not easy when you need to gain understanding of where the risk will be in the future. In particular, because the data sources were separated, fragmented. It was mentioned in the video we have seen before. It was really difficult to understand in Europe where the highest risk was, because each of us were developing and managing the data. And with big data, with Data4Safety, we decided, yes, to facilitate, to create a tool to share data and to centralize them. And that is certainly a major step. But the second thing is the subject matters. When we have to deal with subject matters, we have to try to get, as I mentioned earlier, the big picture, how it looks like. Initially, it was done in isolation. We think we were missing sometimes an opportunity to identify a matter which would have been maybe spotted somewhere in a corner in Europe, in a country in Europe, but not everywhere. And that is where the setup of a collaborative analytics tools would help to get through the data shared by the platform, getting understanding of the risks. And that is what we are calling putting together the aviation science with data science. That is another motivation. Another element, of course, is the introduction of the big data technology. It was the only way to do it. It was already existing in the member states, in these organizations, some organizations, but never at European level. So with our program, we would leverage at European level the big data technology to get the benefits from it. Now, your question, Leo, is the impact on the pandemic and the crisis on it. It's where, we believe today we were right to launch it. And we were even more right because it's more justified than ever. Why is that? Because we have seen the crisis has increased brutally, the risks. It had a systemic impact, and with a big amplitude we never have seen before. So with this, we believe that this big data technology was really the solution also to tackle. And you have seen in the safety risk analysis, we have been discussing already earlier today. So Data4Safety should be seen really a way to navigate across these unknown elements, unknown ground, in order to start capturing the risks which we don't know, and to build up the intelligence which we are not supposed to do during this as I mentioned, this crisis. So to keep it and to conclude, this Data4Safety, it's a new EASA pillar. It's part of our safety management strategy. I think we remain a long time because we have seen through the phases that the partners remained fully committed to continue to share data, to continue to work with us on the best shape it should take. And I think this is good news for the future.
Thank you very much, Luc. And now I would like to turn to your co-chair, Jim Pegram from EasyJet, and basically asking Jim the same question. What has made EasyJet and you in particular decided to join this initiative and invest your time and share your data with this program? Jim?
Thank you, Eric. Well, I guess since about 2008-10, I've been very interested in following very closely the American SIAS program to the point where I asked to join it, but in fact, we couldn't, being a European operator. But very much saw the benefits of that approach. So, clearly, as soon as there was conversations around starting a program around D4S, I was very, very interested. So why the interest? Well, at the heart of good risk management is the need to identify risks and threats, determine the nature of those threats through risk assessment, implement plans to better control those threats and improve safety performance, and then check that those controls and improvements have actually had the desired effect and safety has improved. Now, to achieve that, or a key element to achieving that, is the data. And the more data you have, the more diverse the data sources, the richer the data pool, and therefore the better risk visibility. At a company level, there's only so much we can do, and we're quite fortunate in terms of the volume of data we can drive. But we can't match a European-wide initiative, nor the resources about putting into place cutting-edge analytical techniques. So what I hope to get out of it is a better understanding of how we manage our risks compared to our colleagues. So some important benchmarking, and secondly, and possibly even more importantly, that we have greater insights in where risks and threats reside, and we can participate in a more industry-wide systemic approach to dealing with those risks and threats, which will benefit us, but also the whole industry.
Thank you very much, Jim. So we have heard the two co-chairs of the Data4Safety steering board sharing their vision on the benefits of this program and why we are engaging in that. At this stage, I would like to turn now to the two co-chairs of the technical board. So in the D4S governance, we have a steering board that decides on the policy and directions of the program, and the technical board is where you have the technical and operational work happening. So we have, again, a co-chairing pattern with Leopold, who is the co-chair for EASA, and Bert Bonke from the European Cockpit Association, the co-chair for the representing the industry and the members. So on that, I would like to turn to Bert and to start presenting, the status, where we stand on the developments and achievements we have obtained so far during the proof of concept. So Bert, on to you.
Thank you, Eric. It is indeed a pleasure for me to present the main achievements of the program so far. And in order to do that, I would like to go back to 2016 to the initial goals that we collaboratively set for the program. And for that, I'm using a slide that you yourself, Eric, have developed. And you presented it back then, and I think many in the audience may recognize it. Starting on the left of that slide, we set out to combine the existing data sources and expert knowledge together with new IT technologies, and to build that into a collaborative analysis platform. With that, we hope to obtain new and improved safety insights in the form of metrics, direct studies, blind benchmarking, and potentially also we would like to discover vulnerabilities. That was a target that was set collaboratively with the founding members, and I'd like to go now to see where we stand today compared to this vision. Let's first look at some statistics, what's currently available on that data. And even though we are at a proof of concept phase, we are looking at quite staggering numbers already, about 100 terabytes of data. From the operator side, we are talking about 6 founding members, 16 different aircraft configurations, and over 1,000 aircraft that together provided 1.6 million flights at this stage. And obviously, we are still counting. From the ECR, from the safety reports, we have available 2.2 million reports, and that is complemented by 10.7 million weather reports and ATC data from 131 million flights. Again, this is just at a proof of concept phase, quite impressive, I would say. All this is brought together in the Data4Safety big data platform for which the analysis process is done. All the data is safely stored on the platform, and to analyze, another critical element is the aviation experts and the data scientists in to provide the analysis. However, the first objective, of course, is to ensure that data quality meets the expected standards before any analysis can be started. In this case, we focus on the flight data monitoring part of the platform, but similar checks are done for all the other sources as well. One of the first, can you please switch back the slide? One of the first objectives that we set for the proof of concept phase was to provide metrics. And we have achieved 4 areas: mid-air collision, controlled flight into terrain, loss of control in flight, and runway safety. And for the next slide, I would focus into an example of one of those metrics. The first one that we developed was for mid-air collision, for TCAS. But I would like to, excuse me, one slide back, please. I would like to note that any data we will show later on is derived from an anonymized and limited size sample data. This is done to, of course, to maintain strict confidentiality, and it was agreed between the founding members. Next slide, please. As said, I will focus on the mid-air collision metric. It was the first one we developed, and it's also the first one for which we are, at this moment, developing data fusion. We will use ADS-B data to contextualize surrounding traffic to the FDN data in case of a TCAS event. Next slide, please. Now, this slide provides a first look at the evolution of the number of TCAS warnings over time. Again, I'd like to emphasize that the data shown is for demonstration purposes only, and not representative of the actual situation. In that same context, you will note that no data is shown for April 2020. And this is due to a restriction that we refer to as the rule of 3. Any data shown will need to comply with this rule, which means that at least 3 airlines must contribute to the statistic. In this case, that is not possible, and therefore no data will be shown for that month. Looking further at the graph, we'll see the yellow line representing the yearly average number of TCAS resolution advisories per month for 2019 and 2020. And the more detailed monthly figures in the green columns seem to show an increased number of alerts over summer 2019 and an even higher peak over summer 2020. By themselves, these figures could point to a potential area of concern. However, it's up to the experts and the data scientists to further put any results into context to analyze if there's a real issue ongoing or not. Next slide, please. Context for the data comes from other details that are also available on the platform. In this case, a map can be used to show the location where the warnings occur, and also altitude bands may provide extra insights. It's important to know that also here the rule of 3 applies, also to the map view. It's not possible to zoom into locations unless at least 3 Data4Safety member airlines operate in that area. There is one exception to that rule, and that is when an operator is analyzing their own data. In that case, the program essentially acts as a supersized flight data monitoring analysis tool, similar to what is available to the airline's safety department. As mentioned earlier, we are currently busy to enhance this data with ADS-B traffic data to provide even better insights. However, that is at this moment not available. Next slide, please. Last but not least, The member airlines in the program have the ability to compare their own data with the average results from all member airlines. As you heard Jim say, it's providing a very powerful insight where potential areas of concern may be. Now, for this example, as I said, we have focused mainly on FDM data. However, the platform also contains safety reports from the European Central Repository. And Leopold Virolis will now explain in more detail how Data4Safety uses these reports.
Thank you very much, Bert. Indeed, I would like to complement your goal briefing by an example more turned towards the safety reporting. So, in very simple words, I will try to share some understanding elements about what is the safety reporting. The safety reporting are the reports logged by the aviation actors, aviation professionals, aviation organizations from the field when some safety events, being very minor to the most serious ones, are occurring in our aviation sector. There is a huge effort at national level to consolidate the safety reports in national databases, to already analyze and average on these reports at national level. But as well, since many years now, there is this common effort across the member states to push all the national databases in what we call the European Central Repository. That is a consolidation of all the safety reports that are captured by the European member states. This is possible, already enabled by a common solution, the E2 that you can see in the top left corner. That's the solution that is used by all the actors to support the capture of the safety reporting. And we can fairly say that this is really, for Europe, a goldmine. That comes as well with many challenges, because we have very rich information of a challenging nature, text, sometimes free text, multi-language. So as well, since we have the ECR, we were struggling to unlock completely its potential, infer the safety intelligence at systemic level, European level, that we want for our sector. So this is what we tried to do with Data4Safety, and basically I think we managed to unlock the situation. So what did we do? First of all, we connected the central database with our Data4Safety big data lake. We built an industrial data pipe connecting automatically all the safety reports captured at European level with the analytical capacity offered by Data4Safety. Then, with the members, we proceed, and it was highlighted by Bert on the FDM, in 2 steps. The first step was to check and verify this database that is fed by many member states, containing data that is very complex, consolidate, normalize this data before we start to output and infer intelligence. And this is the second step that we developed with our experts, aviation experts, data scientists, to define, agree about the type of outputs that are meaningful for us from a safety point of view. And we already, at this stage of the POC, populated the main key safety risk areas with relevant, adequate outputs from the ECR. I will give a very simple example so that you can have a feeling for what it means. So this is a very simple graph, histogram, but you have to consider that we use already at this stage very advanced data science methodology to prepare the ECR. We use natural language processing, artificial intelligence, to make sure this data is reliable, that we can infer actionable safety intelligence. On this graph, you can see the evolution of the number of reports a long time, since 2015. You can already drive some conclusions. Who are the main families of organizations contributing the most to the safety reporting? We can observe a global trend of increase along the years, which can be perceived as a good sign with regard to the health of our safety reporting culture. But as well, you can see the effect of the seasonality, the peak seasons during summer with the ramp-up of operations that we had before the pandemic. Of course, beginning of 2020, you can observe the brutal impact of the pandemic on this safety reporting. And there, I would like to focus on this to highlight an important dimension of the program. With Data4Safety, not only we provide advanced analytics, but we provide data fusion. So we can complement and analyze this rich data silo with other information. And there, this is the same information, but presented normalized. We used other information, traffic information, airport movement information, to normalize the overall volume of reports along time. And I have there to mention, Luc, Eric, that we leverage a lot on the good cooperation with Eurocontrol to have the right data to perform this normalization. So back to this data, what remains? We can observe that we actually had a very good progress in terms of reporting culture along the years. The effect of the pandemic in terms of reporting, of the peak seasons in terms of reporting are not that significant. We have a quite constant rate even during the peak seasons. And there I would like just to perform an overlay with the data I showed before. You can see that the picture is completely different during the pandemic. At first sight, we could have thought that we had a damage in terms of reporting, less reporting in these difficult times. Actually, this is the contrary. We have, compared to the volume of operations, compared to the volume of airport movements, we have more reporting, which is an interesting starting point for us. What does it mean as well in terms of safety? And then we cannot show today the details, but you can use the technology to dive into the details and play with this data, look at it along different dimensions to infer safety intelligence. As a recap, as I just illustrated, at systemic level, already for EASA, between having the ECR but not having the right tool, the right power to analyze it, and having data for safety, we can already augment significantly our safety intelligence capacities. And the best illustration is the upcoming publication of the annual safety review. For the first time, we will have in the annual safety review inputs derived from the ECR. And so stay tuned. This is coming soon on the market. And if you want to understand better why we have these variations during the pandemic, please consult the upcoming ASR. For the authorities, it's a change of paradigm. Before, they were very focused on their national databases, but now they can as well, based on Data4Safety, on the analysis of the ECR, have reference points, assess their performance in certain areas compared to other member states or learn from other member states. And the last element we bring with Data4Safety, it's a very important one. For the first time, we managed to close the loop with the field, the safety actors, the aviation actors, pushing first this data to their member states. For the first time, we have agreed on visualization outputs based on the ECR that can make sense for them, that can provide a feedback safety intelligence. And that's very important in the spirit of the regulation 376. Back to you, Bert.
Thank you, Leo. I'd like now to come back to the initial question at the start of this briefing. Where do we stand compared to this vision? We did build that technical big data platform. We were able to compile the collaborative analysis platform. And as you have seen, we have output in the form of metrics and benchmarking. And tomorrow in the approach path management panel, I will dive into some more details of one of the direct studies that we are already performing.
Thank you very much, Bert. I think we can now hand over back to you, Eric, to continue the discussion.
Thank you. So
we missed one slide, Leo.
Sorry, Bert.
I knew sorry,
that was an important one.
It is the important one. Yes, thank you. Why is it so important? Because those technical deliveries cannot exist without the proper conditions. And I think it's important to mention that we managed to create those conditions in a collaborative manner. And by that, I mean that we had to ensure a balance between trust, data protection, and still enabling the work and analysis that we wanted to do. So how did we do that? First of all, by implementing a strong program governance. At steering board level, you've heard we have a duo co-chairs between EASA and the industry, Jim for EasyJet at the moment. And at the technical level, it's Leopold for EASA and myself for the European Cockpit Association. That data governance was developed and supervised collaboratively. And also, next to that, we had to develop the technical side of the program. And then I mean especially the data protection and processing. We have managed to implement cybersecurity independently supervised by our Data4Safety supervisory panel, and that's independent of our big data provider. Any remaining areas are covered through contractual or legal agreements, the Data4Safety program charter, and our data sharing and protection agreements that provide a detailed legal framework for the use of data. With that, I would like to give it back to Eric.
Thank you very much, Bert. So I realize that maybe this presentation is a bit technical, but it was the goal and the purpose to demonstrate that we can now make some serious safety analysis. So for all of you who are actually safety analysts, who know these techniques, I'm sure it was very meaningful. For some others, maybe it was a bit obscure, but the main message here is that we have now in our hands the possibility to analyze things we could not see before. And the second message brought by Bert and Leo was about this data protection. The way we do it, we manipulate data. We make sure that our data owners, and that's why we have, by the way, the ECAs or the pilot unions as co-chair of the technical board. We make sure it's done in a manner where data are fully protected. So on that, I would like to continue and ask questions to the panelists. I would like to apologize to the next panelist because Bert and Leopold have eaten up a bit too much time from what was allocated. So we have to be a bit mindful of the time remaining. So I will ask you to please try to stick to 2 or 3 minutes maximum for your answers. And I would like to go to Aidan with Ryanair. And basically, it's the same question now. Ryanair was an airline that joined in the very early phase, was very proactive in sharing the data, in contributing in the safety analysis. So could you share with us why Ryanair has decided to join the proof of concept and what is the added value from your operator perspective? Aidan?
Thank you, Eric. Ryanair embraced flight data monitoring at a very early stage, long before it was mandated by safety regulation. We started our OFDM program in 2004 with 30 airplanes. Quickly, we understood the detail available from this level of data mining. Our flight operations, a flight safety team, realized the benefits of this level of oversight by identifying trends and hotspots, allowing proactive safety management. And we considered OFDM program to be a benchmark in aviation safety. Ryanair has grown from 30 to 450 Boeing 737s in the year 2021. We have a data capture rate of 99.9%. We fly 2,500 sectors a day and close to 700,000 sectors a year. That was pre-pandemic. So this provides a very rich data source. And because we have an identical fleet, a very clean data set. From the highest levels within our organization, the D4S program has been supported. This ensured resources were available to safeguard the success of the program. We all realize that data is knowledge and knowledge is power. So sharing the data empowers the safety oversight of our industry. We recognize the importance of opening the valve and pushing the data down the pipe to the D4S foundry. And we are delighted to be the first airline to do so. We believe the concept of eventually blending the data from all stakeholders and having the expertise of EASA to better understand the dynamics of our industry is exciting and must be pursued. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much, Aidan, and thank you for sticking to the time. It was great. No, it's always good to hear from operators from the industry their benefit. I think it's more telling, in particular for the other operators, instead of EASA explaining why. It's good to be there. So, Leopold?
Yes, Eric. For the next question, I would like to turn to another D4S pioneer, but this time on the side of the National Aviation Authorities. And I would like to turn to you, Patrick. You have been engaged on the program since the very beginning of the proof of concept phase. And I would like to invite you to share your perspectives as a National Aviation Authority about D4S and where is the added value for the authorities?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Leopold. I think, as it has been seen on the presentation of the project, Data4Safety is a huge step forward compared to what we were currently undertaking up to now. We were analyzing the occurrence safety reports on a national basis mainly. We were sometimes using ADS-B data. using FDM data when we were sharing the data with an airline, but nothing on a systematic scale. So this is an unprecedented situation in Europe where we have such a large amount of data. With D4S bringing the capacity of embarking new data, we spoke about FDM data, also MET data, also radar data, all these data with the big data techniques to be able to get the most benefit out of this. Maybe, for example, to identify correlations that have not been identified yet. We were convinced that such a program could only be undertaken at European level because this is the relevant size, because of its cost, and also because of the buy-in by operators, which is probably easier at European level. Finally, the existence of the US AZS program and the contribution of our American colleagues to this project, this Data4Safety project, also the professionalism with which the agency has undertaken the project was all very reassuring on its feasibility and our collective capacity to bring to the end. So it was obvious for us that we had an interest in joining the program. We thought also that our long-lasting experience of safety report analyzing could be useful to the Data4Safety program. Now, if you ask me on the expected added value, as everyone, we expect a better understanding of contributing factors to safety incidents. As an authority, we also expect to get a blind benchmark on our operators and the operators that we are overseeing compared to the European average. This can give us an idea of the safety performance of our airlines, for example, which is interesting compared to European average. It's also a view of the authority efficiency in that domain. And finally, we believe Data4Safety will enable us to evaluate on a long period of time the efficiency of a safety policy, focused on some specific identified risks, for example, and be it on a European or on a national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So good to hear the perspective from an authority on the program also. And it's very important because, of course, the operators will join this program only if they are reassured that the authorities will play by the rules, by the ethics, by the principles of the program. So that's why we are together in that. So the next question was for Joachim. I'm not sure if we have actually Joachim with us or if we still have a technical problem. So Joachim is with us. So I cannot see you on the feedback screen. Okay, here you are, Joachim. Good to see you with us. Apparently there was a small technical issue. So Joachim, so we have heard the funding members, so the people who have shared their data or their expertise with the program. But the European Commission and DG Move in particular, and you have been a key enabler and supporter of this initiative. So, because you have been funding this initiative, so that's how you enable Data4Safety to come to life. So could you explain to the audience why has the Commission decided to support such a program, and how do you see this program supporting the aviation safety strategy of the Commission? Joachim, on to you. So I think we are still experiencing a technical issue with Joachim. So what I propose, I will go on, and when the technicians will give me a sign and we are ready, I will get back to Joachim. So
I'm back.
You're back.
Eric.
Have you? Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Did you hear me? Did you hear my question, Joachim?
I did not hear it, but I guess I know it, so I can try to provide my contribution.
Okay, so can you go ahead and explain why the Commission has supported D4S and how you think this will support your strategy?
Yes, thank you. So for us, D4S is a reflection of the digital agenda of the Commission in the aviation sector, and part of the way forward for the European Union on digital infrastructures and artificial intelligence and mobility data spaces. Actually, the intention to support D4S goes back way back to 2015 and the aviation strategy for Europe, where the Commission already mentioned the big Data for Civil Aviation initiative. And the aim already there was to make aviation even safer and support EU technological and market leadership in aviation and in big data technologies. So on this basis, we decided to support the funding, or rather to fund the Data4Safety proof of concept phase as a support measure under the Connecting Europe facility. And the total amount of the grants we provided to EASA is 10 million euros. So a successful Data4Safety initiative would clearly fit into the sustainable and smart mobility strategy, which the Commission presented on 9th of December of last year. The strategy lays the foundations on how the EU transport system can achieve the green and digital transformation and become more resilient in the future. The implementation of that strategy focuses on 3 legs. It's supposed to be smart, sustainable, and resilient. And data pooling and big data analysis clearly falls under the SMART objective. So to conclude, we consider Data4Safety as an important initiative that has the potential to make aviation safer and that fits the strategic priorities of the Commission. At the same time, this potential still needs to be demonstrated in practice. And we are now looking forward to the final report of the proof of concept phase to evaluate the results and the scope eventually achieved with this current investment from the EU budget. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much, Joachim. So I think we had now a good review of the different members and operators, pilot associations, the national authorities and the Commission on why they believe that this program has some value. So at this stage, I would like to share briefly with you some perspective on the next phase. I think there is an important point that Joachim just mentioned, the importance to validate first the proof of concept phase. So of course, for us, the best way to prepare for the future, for the operational phase, is to make sure that we are successful in the current phase. So first, I have to admit that we have to remain focused on delivery. We have to provide convincing results, and the measure of success, what are they? So for this proof of concept, we had to demonstrate a number of things. First and foremost, are we able to provide a trust environment? Because if we don't have a trust environment where operators and later on other actors like ANSPs, maintenance organizations, training, because it will be open to all the safety partners, feel comfortable to share their data and their analytical expertise, then we don't have a program. So we had to provide this trust environment and the right data protection. So we had to do that. And to do that, you have to design a governance. And that's why Bert explained, governance, the technical solutions to protect, and also the legal and contractual instruments to protect the data, like data sharing agreements and so on and so forth. So that's one deliverable. The second deliverable was, of course, to demonstrate that technically, all these new technologies, big data and others, can be used for aviation safety. And I think the demonstration you had today was already, only the tip of the iceberg, but you had already an idea of what we can do. So building this technical environment, a big data lake, as they call it, and building these algorithms. And in the end, we have to deliver safety intelligence. We have to demonstrate that the trust is there to enable the data to come, the partners to join, the IT technologies are there to make it possible, and then can we actually know something we would not know without this program? Can Data4Safety bring additional information, better risk identification, and better support the mitigations? So that's what we are focusing on, and that's what we want to deliver for this year. But of course, we have to start preparing the next phase and the expansion of the program. So for that, we are working on different things. First, we need to have an expansion plan. Now, it's a very limited number of founding members. And it was meant this way because it's already, as you can imagine, very complex on many different areas. So we wanted to have a small number of willing organizations. But of course, we will expand that and open it up. It's supposed to be a very inclusive program. So we have to decide how we can expand the program in a manner that is proportionate to the resources we will have and in a manner that is logical. So certainly we will start with more of the same type because we have already operators, NAs, so we know how to integrate onboard them. So we'll certainly start the first wave with them. Then we have the ANSPs, the ATC world, airports, maintenance organizations, training, and so on. So we are starting to work out a plan where we will have different waves of onboarding. We will also need to adapt the program governance. The governance is a key element of this trust and data protection. We designed the governance that we have today like we were like a big organization, even though we are only 14 members at this stage. But yet we will have to make some changes when we welcome more members and of different kind, new type of organizations. And very important, now Data4Safety, a lot of expectations, and Luc mentioned many of them, is a demonstrator. It's not really operational. Next year, we ambition to say it's operational. So how do we integrate this new capability, which is supposed to be a game changer, into our safety landscape, and maybe more than safety? So we have to have a reflection on that, so that it's accepted and we can bring it on. Last but not least, of course, and that's something we are working on with Joachim from the Commission, we need to secure a sustainable funding mechanism for the program. So that's what we are working on, and we are not today in a position to make to provide a timetable, a clear schedule. But what we will do is certainly by Q3 or 4 of this year, we will make more public announcements and announce a roadmap on how we'll expand the program and when you, if you are willing to, can join it. So at this stage, I would like to hand over to Leopold.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much for these perspectives about the next phase of the program, the operational phase. Without further additions, I would like, in a very simple manner, to turn towards our panelists and ask a very simple question. Considering these perspectives, and as we are in the preparation to kick off this operational phase at a later stage, what is or what are the two main success factors, the two main recommendations that you would like to insist on for a successful transition to the operational phase? And to start, I would like to give you the floor.
If I may, Leo, to interrupt you, sorry. No, I just would like again to remind, because I see the time we are really behind schedule. So I just ask to the panelists to really provide the two recommendations without too many elaboration and really stick strictly below 1 minute, which is, by the way, 60 seconds only. On to you, Louis.
Okay, try to stick with the time limit. There are plenty of factors. Two really are important to me, and it has been said by the colleagues earlier, and you too, the trust. No trust, no partners, no data. As simple as that. And linked to that, data protection regime must be absolutely transparent, solid, and we have Bert on that, who has been very vocal. Second thing, this program cannot be an island, isolated. It has to be part of the aviation landscape. What does it mean? When, Eric, you mentioned the extension of the program during the operational phase will embark new members, new disciplines, new areas. We have to be cautious that we know how to prioritize. We have to be sure that we have the governance established to steer the program, and that is, I would say, the second condition. And with this, we believe we can continue on the same pattern we have been so far. I have plenty of things to say, but I want to comply with your time limit.
Thank you very much, Luc. I will turn to Jim in 60 seconds. Jim, the key success factors for the operational phase?
Well, similar to Luc, there are many, many factors. I think two of the key things is a collaborative approach, making sure everybody's on board, and underpinning the whole program is a tireless focus on data protection model to sort the confidence of the stakeholders.
Thank you very much. Aidan.
Thank you, Leo. I think as we get into the operational phase, I think it's important that we show that we can actually move into the operational phase and show how this system will work. Like, for example, if we look at approach management, and that can be demanding, it's never going to be more relevant with the reduced flying available to pilots and the obvious potential onset of skill fade. And if I was to focus on one particular area, I would ask that we would look at the anatomy of a moment, the moment at which an approach becomes unstable. An approach becoming unstable is crystallized in the pilot's initiating a go-around. If we can dissect this moment, identify the precursors to an unstable approach, then we can use this information to improve crew's situational awareness at the onset of this undesirable state. And I think if we can achieve that, we will. It's something that we can demonstrate during the operational phase that D4S is up and running. Thank you, Luc.
Thank you very much, Aidan. I will turn to you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Leopold. I can share all what has been said up to now. I will insist on 2 points, maybe. The necessity now to deliver some first results on a very quite short-term basis now that we are finishing the proof of concept phase. And second, on the confidence, the trust subject, the trust on the data protection, trust on the usage that is made of data. And specifically for an authority, I want to make it very clear that Data4Safety outputs cannot be used for the oversight of an individual company. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Bert, what will be your recommendations for a successful transition?
Thank you, Leo. Again, I focus on the trust like all the others. And two elements there are the collaborative approach. Any partner needs to be able to speak up, as we have done before. And all the concerns, including ECAs, were addressed. I think that's very important. And on the aspect of confidentiality, I think the big challenge will be to maintain agile enough and provide still meaningful output while having a robust data protection, especially in the context of data fusion.
Thank you very much.
But those two elements maintained, I'm sure we can have a true just culture environment for all current and future members.
Thank you very much, Bert. Joachim, if you would like to share your perspectives about the operational phase.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to highlight two success factors. I think the first one is a clear focus on the safety industrial benefits that this program can bring, and hence the need for careful evaluation and a clear showcasing of why there is a value added in going into an operational phase. And secondly, the need for sustainability. So clearly, if we want to go into an operational phase, we need a program which is viable in the long term, and that requires a public-private partnership and hence an attractive business case that demonstrates a genuine interest of the data providers and the airlines in keeping this program on a forward-going basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Thank you very much, all. Eric, back to you.
Thank you very much indeed to all of you. So we'll embark, of course, your comments, very useful. Yeah, at this stage, we wanted to have a bit of an interaction with the audience. We will have to reduce that to the strict minimum, I'm afraid, because we have only actually 1 minute to go. We will certainly go a little bit over. So I can see from the Slido, and I will take maybe 2 questions that came up. One question is, will the data processed by D4S be accessible by third parties? So there was a lot of actually votes on this question, and I want to be super clear. And the answer is pretty easy. No, absolutely no. The data in the big data, in the Data4Safety program are in a sanctuary, and that's part of the deal we have with the data owner. You have to know that even EASA, we have technically, legally and contractually, by the way, no way to access the data. And no one from the program can access the data. You get to see what you need to see. So we provide the data to a third party, an independent provider of big data services, and the data are immediately de-identified, anonymized, and nobody can actually access them. What you can access, what is interesting, not the raw data, which are super protected. Again, it's a sanctuary. What is interesting is the information we infer out of that. And I think there was another question, will this information be public? Then the answer is yes, of course. So the information, the results of the program are there for the greater good of the community. So that's part of what I told you. We are reflecting on how to integrate Data4Safety in our safety management system at European level. So one of the questions is, how do we share those results with the community? Do we simply post them on the website? Do we push them to some specific companies? Do we use them to feed the EPAS, European Plan for Aviation Safety? So that's the question we are reflecting upon. So data, no, never shared. And it's extremely complicated to get access to it. But the results, of course, it will be for the greater community. Another question maybe I will take, because I guess it's something that is coming up very often. So how can we collaborate or integrate the Data4Safety program? Well, this is what I explained, in our expansion phase. It's a voluntary partnership. So first of all, no organizations will have to, but if you wish to, you will be welcome, because as I said, it's meant to be a very inclusive program. So down the road, what we hope for, that one day all organizations of Europe that are, of course, related to aviation safety are part of the program. But it will take some time, because I explained we need to have a proportionate and reasonable expansion program where we onboard what we are able to onboard in a proper manner. So there will be a roadmap where we will say first wave, I don't know, I'm making things up, it's not a commitment at this stage, but the first half of 2022, more operators can join. Then we will have more NAs, then we'll have the ANSP, then we'll have the airports. So that's the roadmap we will put, and then you will just need to raise your hand, say you wish to join, but then of course there will be a condition to join. And the condition will be that you will have to sign up to the program charter with the principles. And the principles are all about the purpose of this program, which is for safety and for safety only. I'm very happy that Patrick mentioned clearly, as an authority, he reminded that an authority, for instance, that is member of Data4S, we never use the program to do the oversight of a single organization. And this is, for instance, written clearly in the charter. So provided you sign up to the charter, then you will be able to join the program. Then there is another question interesting about, knowing that in safety, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. I think this is a quote from Einstein. But anyway, how can Data4S program account for this? Well, I'm glad you asked, because every time we present Data4S, and you may remember one of the slides of Bert, he showed the slide in Data4S, there was two main boxes. One was on the big data lake, so the IT part of the program. That's about the data. That's about capturing. That's about the algorithms, the data-driven part. And then you add we call it the analysis platform. And here it's about us, experts. So we put the experts around the table to look at the data. So it's not like Data4S is meant to be a kind of a black box. You put data, and the system will tell us where we have a problem. We experts will be always on top of it. We'll analyze, we'll validate, and we'll bring our expert knowledge. Because we fully agree, not everything is in the data. And we know that. In these days, we don't have data about what is coming up. We do not have data about drones to predict what they will do. So for some safety issues, it's all about expert knowledge and cognitive reflection. So that is part also of the program. We will account for that. And by the way, that's why we have Safe360. So Safe360 complement the Data4Safety by bringing together experts and to have this discussion, conversation as experts. I'm afraid I will have to stop there, and I will not take more questions. So I would like to wrap up this panel. So the intent was to give you a status report on where we stand with this proof of concept, to explain what are the expected benefits from this program, and not just the EASA vision, but all our members, operators, pilots, authorities, the European Commission. And in essence, what we are trying to build is a program that will be at the very heart of the European safety risk management system by taking all the data together. Luc mentioned in his opening remarks that the data, all the data are captured today and all the data are analyzed, but in a fragmented manner. Operators, they use their FDM, but they have only their FDM. The ANSPs, they do capture air traffic data, analyze them, but that's another perspective. So the ambition of this program is to put all these fragments together so we can together reconstruct the full picture and agree on what the full picture is. And then we are back to the discussions of the first panel. We need to discuss the interdependencies and the risk transfer. So I will close this panel here. I hope it gave you appetite to know more about Data4Safety. And I invite you, to join the next panel that will start in 7 minutes at 3:45. And this will be about integrated risk management, where we will discuss how to integrate security and safety risk. Thank you very much, and see you soon.